This is the Creative Liberty Podcast. Good morning from beautiful springtime Colorado. The coffee is on point. The weather is on point. Oh my goodness, it doesn't get much better than this out here in Colorado. Welcome, everybody. I am glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Liberty Podcast. My name is Major. Today, we're going to talk. No, we're not going to just talk about taxes. We're going to fix taxes. So, bear with me. This is an umbrella episode. This is, the mile-high city view, okay? We're looking down on taxes. I'm not going to get in the weeds. I know people will say, oh, but would you think about this and this and this and this? Yeah. I've thought about it. But I want to give you the idea behind what I'm thinking and then let you guys run with it. Take a shotgun, blow holes in it, tell me where I'm wrong. So let's talk about the tax code. Well, first let's talk about, before we get into the tax code, let's talk about the misallocation of funds. You're watching the news and you see that, some government bureaucracy has spent a ton of money on, dressing tadpoles up like clowns or something, just as a study. And you're like, that's dumb. I could have told them that wouldn't work. And they could have spent that money on me. So there's always, when you're overtaxed and when the government has so much bloated money that they don't know what to do with, they spend it unwisely. And no one knows better how to spend their own money than you. And if you want to go blow your own money, then that's on you. But here's my solution for taxes. And I'm not sure what I'm going to title this episode. It'll have something to do with us owning our own taxes. Okay. Currently, the tax code is thousands of pages long. It's up there with it's more pages and more words than the Bible, the whole Harry Potter series, and War and Peace. So it's a big tax code. I can simplify the whole tax code into like a half a sheet of paper, one sheet of paper. And here's how. So whether this is digital or whether this is, on paper, you're sent a somewhat like a mail-in ballot kind of thing, a piece of paper, or you go to the IRS. I mean, for this to work, there has to be action on our parts as Americans. So I'm proposing quarterly, or at least twice a year, we pay our taxes. One, you would see how much the government's taking out of your taxes, taking out of your paycheck in taxes. And so, and I think that would cause another Boston Tea Party revolt. But if we had to pay our taxes quarterly and we had to actually go somewhere or do something, now most people will probably just hire someone to do it. And that's fine. That'll drum up some business for, your tax advisors. But on a sheet of paper, here's what you made, this last quarter. Here's the percentage you owe. I'm also in favor of a fair tax or a flat tax of like 5%. Some would say 10%, okay? Neil Bortz wrote a book called Fair Tax many years ago. And I love the ideas in that book. But I think we could even just reduce that to like 5 or 7, okay? You have to strip away all the other taxes, no death tax, no marriage tax, no property tax, no payroll tax, none of that. It's just on goods and services, okay? So sales tax essentially. So he would say 10%. I would even say 5%. So but for round numbers, let's go 10%. So you put in what you made, or it's sent to you. Hey, you made this quarter. You owe this. Great. All right. So I owe $200, right? I can then tell those $200 in little check boxes. And then again, this comes back down to the local level as communities can vote to like, what do we want to put and what do we want to spend money on taxes? And so then they could vote to add something else, So let's say they're building a new school. They want to add schools onto their little tax chart. Obviously that would be on there, but you could parse those out. It wouldn't just go into civil services, like not one lump sum for the fire department, the police department, the schools, things like that. Let's say you have a really crooked police department. Citizens could withhold their funds for the police department until something was done. Clear house, hire new officers, things like that. Let's say your schools aren't operating the way that you want them to. You can withhold your tax dollars from those schools. Or let's say they're operating great and they're like rocking it, and you want to donate more or all of your taxes to schools. You could do that. And then so you've got infrastructure like roads and bridges, schools, police, fire department, other things that you can just check a box, or you can write in, you can parse it out by the dollar, or just check a box. I want it to be split up evenly amongst these. There could even be a box for miscellaneous and other that you could write it in. So, and if enough people wanted to get together and write something in, and we want a new park, okay, let's put that on the ballot. Let's see how many people want to vote for it. And then you've got X amount of thousands of dollars to build that park. Okay, we may have to wait. Or it's going to go into the park fund, and once there's more money there, then we have enough money. It's going to cost this much to build it. Then we'll build it. So it would be that way. So basically what happens is we take ownership of our taxes. We send the government our taxes instead of them automatically taking it from our paycheck. And that way we become the stewards of our local communities, and we tell our tax dollars where to go. And we can track it. So once that's submitted, you should be able to log on and look at Joe Q Public or myself, Major Chisholm. Maybe you don't want to let people know how much you make, but they could extrapolate that by how much you've paid in taxes. It would be across the board, no loopholes, things like that for corporations. I mean, again, it goes back to the community. If the community wants to get, Tesla to come into their community to build an infrastructure, or a tech company or whatever, and they wanted to donate the land tax-free, that's fine. Let the community vote on it. But getting back to taxes, having that ownership of telling the government where to spend our money would benefit local communities better, especially like in the inner city. If the schools aren't good, hey, let's let all the teachers go. Let's start over. We're going to withhold our funds from these schools, which would drive the teachers' paychecks, and we're going to hire more. We're going to hire more teachers. Y'all, it would give the people the power, back with their tax dollars, telling their tax dollars where to go. If the teachers in the schools are rocking it, those who check, schools, give the teachers bonuses. Say, hey, I want this to go towards a bonus for teachers this year. My kid's doing really well. They've brought my kid up from this to this, and they're reading on a higher level and things like that. So it's not all about withholding, but it's also about supporting with your money. You can tell your money where to go, and have it used for whatever you want it to be used for. And I think that makes sense in my brain if we did it that way. I don't know that the government, it doesn't make sense in any government official's brain, because you're cutting out their whole pie. You're taking the pie away from them, like, stop eating, you're done. You've been taking money out of our paychecks for so long. So if we dropped it down, fair, flat tax for 5 to 10%, 7%, just across the board, it would decrease all budgets across the board. And in case you don't know, here's how this works. I'm a government official. I go to my boss and I say, hey, last year we had $1 million budget. This year we need $2 million. And the big government official says, nope, you're just going to have to live on last year's budget. And then I cry, oh, they're cutting my budget by $1 million. That's how it usually works. When you hear people and government officials crying about, they're cutting our budgets, no, you're just not getting the money you asked for. You're going to have to make do on the money you used last year. It's the same with American families. We have a budget. We have to live on what we make. And some people live above their means, which is not wise, and some people live below their means. And so those who live below their means and don't overspend or get into tons of debt, then they have more money, and they can tell that money where to go. Instead of that money, if you're in debt and you're having to pay bills and pay off creditors and things like that, then they're telling your money where to go. But in the case of the government, they're just taking it. They're just taking your money, and they're going to spend it on whatever they want without you having any say-so in that. So to me, it makes sense in my brain if we were able to have some control or stewardship or ownership over our taxes. And not only that, we have to actually make an effort to do that. And that effort is coming in the form of paying our taxes quarterly. And doing that, it would really open a lot of people's eyes as to, hey, this is not right, and we need to do something about it. Major Chisholm had a good idea. Let's expound on it, or let's do his idea, or Neil Bortz, or whoever, to simplify it, to make it work for American people and not against them. Because it burns me up when, there's I think a website called feedthepig.org, and it's basically about government overspending on stupid things. Don't let Congress give themselves a raise during the inflation. I mean, optics are one thing, when they're giving themselves a raise and you and your family are struggling to put food on the table, and currently feed your babies formula because there's none on the shelves, and yet our government is out partying and, giving themselves raises and all that. That's nope, not where I come from. So let's do a tax revolt. Let's start getting these ideas out there like, hey, we want to pay my taxes quarterly. I don't want my money going towards that. I want to tell my money where to go. I want those options. Now, some people, they just want to be left alone, pay their taxes, and that's fine. Do it quarterly. You're still going to have to get off your duff and pay your taxes quarterly. And tell your taxes where to go. And that could just be you could just do miscellaneous or, discretionary fund. It goes into the whole fund, government, y'all split it up however you want to. That's fine. But you have the say-so in doing that. And it would probably decrease the tax code, the people that work at the IRS, and, get rid of a lot of unnecessary jobs that our taxes are going to pay for, and a lot of unnecessary wars and everything else. So anyway, those are my thoughts. That's my idea of the big umbrella things. Obviously, we're not getting into corporate taxes and things like that. It's mainly for average American citizens who have to pay their taxes once a year, and they think, I get this big bonus. No. You shouldn't get a big bonus. You just gave the government an interest-free loan for a year, and they gave you a little bit of it back. That's dumb. You should not get a big return when it comes to taxes. You should structure your withholdings and everything in such a way that you get a really tiny return, or no return at all. If you can nail it, that would be awesome. But because what that means is that's more money in your paycheck, and that you can then go and spend. You can donate to charity. You can save, put it in IRAs and savings and things like that, or blow it on bacon, whatever. That's up to you. So, but ownership of our own taxes. It's time for us to stop being lazy and just allowing the government to take from us and spend it however they want. Because regardless of who's in the White House, it doesn't matter. Look at your state house. How are they spending their money? How are they spending? Are they using the money, our taxes that they're taking from us? Are they spending it wisely? If they're not, then we need something like this, because then that will tell them, you need to spend our money wisely, or we're going to withhold it from you. Now, this is sort of a two-part episode. The next one I'm going to talk about is how to kind of do the same thing, but with our politicians. I already have a title for that episode, but I'll save it for another day. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. What do you think? I'll put a poll or some questions below in the show notes. With Spotify, you can ask polls and questions. And let me know what you think. I'm really interested. Would a flat, fair tax across the board work for everybody? I think so. Obviously, go read Neil Bort's book to dive more into that. If you don't make enough, you don't pay taxes and all that. So, but it gets into the weeds. But I think a fair sales tax across the board would be the way to go. And then also us just being able to check a box and tell our tax dollars where to go. We need to step up our efforts when it comes to paying taxes as far as telling our money where to go and have ownership of that instead of the government just taking it and spending it however they want. All right. Thanks for listening, and I will see y'all on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Creative Liberty Podcast. I am grateful that you're here. If you enjoyed this content, please share it with others. Subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, have a great one.